Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Thursday to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems that a lot of people are talking about the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 debacle that's going on. Is this a serious issue? Yes, it definitely is. But it's happened, so are you prepared? What I want to talk about today is this. Why does it really matter now what happened with Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2? The reason I say that is this, is because whatever really happened, do you really think that we will know anytime soon? Do you really think that the powers that be will allow us to know what happened anytime soon? Whether it was an accident, whether it was some kind of a mischievous action taken by a nation state, we won't know. And by the time that we do find out, it'll be so long from now that it will no longer matter. But what matters to me is this, is that we learn from history, that we learn those things that have happened in the past where we have been betrayed as not only the American people, but as human beings that live on this wonderful earth. There are a lot of things that have happened in the past, and I'm going to go over only 5. I could probably find dozens of things that have happened in the past that first came out as dead lies, just dead lies from the government, and now 40, 50, 60, 70 years later, we find out that, wow, those weren't lies. Those things really did happen, and they covered it up because they did not want to imply themselves in the things that they were doing against their own people. All right, so I'm going to cover a few things. Some of you may know of these things that have happened in the past, but some of you may not know it at all. And some of you, even after I read some of the stuff that I'm going to read to you, you won't even believe it. So go do your own research. It's all public knowledge. It's all out there for you to go and find out and try to prove it wrong, or try to see that, hey, this really did happen and we were coerced into this or coerced into that. And stay for the very last thing, because the very last thing is something that for sure, I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, for sure, you will not hear on the mainstream media. Not one bit. So let's start out with Operation Northwoods. For those of you that don't know what Operation Northwoods is, it's an operation that was conjured by the Big C. So I'm going to refer to this organization right here as the Big C from now on, okay? It was conjured by the Big C back during the crisis that we were having with Cuba. Remember the Cuba missile crisis, whatever that thing was, where Russia was trying to put missiles on Cuba and stuff like that? And it was an operation that was conjured by the Big C, and proposed to the president at that time, President Kennedy. And it was shortly after he came into office, right? After he became president. So take a look at this. This right here is the official document that was unclassified, but there's more than that. And you can actually find this document on a PDF on the internet, right? It's public knowledge. It's out there for you to see, and it is unclassified. So you can go look for it for yourself. But I wanted to go ahead and just cover a little bit of this. See, there's not that much to read, just a couple little paragraphs to read. And then you can come and revisit this and look for yourself. And I'm going to leave the link to all of these on a pinned comment. It starts off by saying top military leaders of America and the Big C drafted plans to stage and carry out acts of tea against the citizens of the United States of America. All right, go ahead and read that over for yourself. Carry out acts of tea against the citizens of the United States of America. By taking out innocent people and blaming Cuba, they hoped that the world would support a retaliatory strike, and therefore Operation Northwoods was born. Again, this is public knowledge. It's out there for you to look it up. In the face of such destructive attacks, apparently by a new and unstable communist regime, the U.S. would appear as the injured party. The world would see a U.S. invasion of Cuba as a justified retaliatory strike against a tea state. That was Operation Northwoods, ladies and gentlemen. And it was a plan conjured by the Big C to take out American citizens, innocent American citizens, in hopes that the rest of the American populace would back up their plan to invade a sovereign nation, be it that they were a communist nation or whatever, but to invade a sovereign nation. The same thing that's happening now, but with 2 other countries. Do you all remember that little war, which really wasn't a war, it was a police action, right, that sent 58,000 plus American service members to their demise. And then I would have to say hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million or more, other service members that came home to get spat on, came home without limbs, came home without their minds. Remember that? Well, what got us into that debacle? Well, it's called the Gulf of Tonkin. It was an attack on an American ship or boat that never happened. And being told this to the Congress, they then authorized that the president send people to Vietnam to their demise. It was a lie. It never happened. And it came out years and years later, after all of the people that were responsible for sending our young men and women over to Vietnam, they were already gone. So who's going to pay the price? The reason I'm saying this, ladies and gentlemen, and the reason I'm showing you this is because I still have it in my mind about that person that said, "Are you serious? You think this was all planned?" That was all planned. They knew what would happen if they told Congress that an American vessel was attacked by North Vietnamese. They knew what would happen, and they lied about it. And therefore, Congress said, yes, go ahead and send our kids over there to die. On a lie, ladies and gentlemen. What, do you think this was planned? Of course not. It was just coincidence. Somebody just messed up. Somebody meant to say something and it came out a different way. It just got lost in communication, so we lost 58,000 Americans. Now, this goes through the history of what led up to the Vietnam War and all that, but I want to go ahead and get to right before it. So in November 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, and this is something that we all know. Well, what happened about 6 months later? In 1964, after Johnson was in office, the USS Maddox was allegedly attacked by North Vietnamese patrol torpedo boats in the Gulf of Tonkin. The attack was later disputed, leading President Johnson to call for airstrikes on North Vietnamese patrol boats and bases. 2 U.S. aircrafts are shot down, and 1 U.S. pilot, Everett Alvarez Jr., becomes the first U.S. airman to be taken prisoner by North Vietnam. In August of 1964, that same date, the attacks in the Gulf of Tonkin spur Congress to pass the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which authorizes the president to take all necessary measures, including the use of armed force, against any aggressor in the conflict. Now, this is a different article, but I'm going to go ahead and start from here. In 2005, an undated NSA publication was declassified, revealing that there was no attack on the Maddox. Since the NSA's disclosure, many have accused the U.S. government of intentionally faking the incident to increase support for the U.S. war in Vietnam and to justify further military action in the region. And I've looked into this in depth, and the commander of the USS Maddox, he was actually telling them, saying, "We have not been attacked." So was it planned? In fact, on August 10th, the U.S. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, a bill that authorized the president to do whatever was necessary to assist any member or protocol state of the Southeast Asia Collective Defense Treaty. This technique was also seen in the early 2000s when the government administration of President Bush of the U.S. and Prime Minister Tony Blair of the U.K. asserted that Iraq government was actively constructing and stockpiling weapons of, say it ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to, How many times have we heard that word? Prompting the war in Iraq. The U.S.-led inspections found that Iraq had in fact not been stockpiling or producing WMDs. I guarantee you that there's at least one person who watches this video that knows somebody or is family of someone who lost their life in Iraq pursuing a ghost, pursuing something that never existed. Was that planned? Was that insertion into Iraq? Was that planned? I'm sure it wasn't. It was just by happenstance. It wasn't planned. Ladies and gentlemen, the only way that we can maintain freedom, any semblance of freedom whatsoever, is if we become informed and if we criticize what it is that our government is doing now so that we can stop some crazy thing from happening that will cost the lives of our children, of our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers. It's the only way that we can stop it. Because we the people, we have the power. But without being informed, without being critical of those things that governments do on our behalf, we will never be able to stop it, and things like this will continue over and over and over again. Have you heard of this one, Operation Mockingbird? Operation Mockingbird was a 1950s program in which the CIA recruited and propped up various media organizations to influence public opinion. In April of 1976, the Church Committee, a U.S. Senate task force, conducted an investigation into the CIA's influence over both foreign and national news organizations and stated that the CIA maintained a huge global network that provided intel for the organization and at times attempted to influence opinion through the use of covert propaganda. The damning report also stated that these same individuals gave the CIA direct access to a large number of newspapers and periodicals, scores of press services and news agencies, radio and television stations, commercial book publishers, and other foreign media outlets, and claimed that approximately 50 of the CIA's assets were individual American journalists or employees of the media organization. But, God forbid, if I say, hey, this guy over here on this station, this guy used to work for the CIA. And I know I messed up. I'm supposed to be calling it the big C, but it is what it is. I'm not going to edit it out. But right now, many of us can say, hey, this person over here used to work for the CIA. And it's being said that he still does. And that he is an asset that was placed on that position as an anchor or as a personality on that news show. But God forbid if I say that, because I'd be called crazy. I saved this one for last because it's the one that's the most recent in our history, and it actually occurred on this same month about 21 years ago. And there was actually an investigation done on this by Alaska University of Fairbanks, and I believe it was a 2-year investigation. A structural re-evaluation of the collapse of World Trade Center 7. I'm just going to read the summary, okay? I'm just going to read the bottom of this. I will leave this on a link so you can revisit it. Because the people that did this investigation for, I think it lasted at least 2 years. They were not in the culinary department. No. They were in the structural engineering department. These are people that know what to look for, that know what they're doing. This is what they do in life. And here in the bottom, they finish this off by saying, the principal conclusion of our study is that fire did not cause the collapse of WT7 on that date. Contrary to the conclusion of NIST and private engineering firms that studied the collapse. The secondary conclusion of our study is that the collapse of WT7 was a global failure involving the near simultaneous failure of every column in the building. And what they mean by that it was a global failure is that it's never happened in the history of mankind where a structural building that was made out of steel, where the bones inside of it were made out of steel, collapsed on itself. There have been instances of buildings that were pretty much same construction as this one right here that completely burned down to its skeleton, where everything that was left was just the beams, but it never imploded on itself in the manner and fashion in which this one right here did. So go take a look at that if you're interested. But I think I've made my point. And I know that a lot of you are going to think I'm crazy. But the fact of the matter is this. Our government is not there for us, for we the people. So what does it matter what took down Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2? What does matter is, are you going to be prepared for the repercussions of what that means? What are the repercussions of Europe not being able to get any natural gas? Probably forever from Russia. What are those repercussions? What does that mean to you if you live in Germany, who used to get about 50% of your natural gas from Russia? What does that mean to you if you live in Europe and other countries that used to get a high percentage? I believe Italy used to get like 43% or 46%. What does it matter to you? How are you going to prepare for that fact? What does it matter to people here in the United States that are now having to pay higher prices because whatever we get out of the ground as far as natural gas, we are exporting as much as we possibly can, dwindling our supplies and making the prices for everyone go up? What does that mean to you? How are you going to prepare for that? Because you're never going to be told the truth. Maybe 50 years from now, some crazy old guy like me will be sitting on a chair telling you, hey, look at this, the Nord Stream 1 and the Nord Stream 2, this is what really happened. Because, ladies and gentlemen, everything that government does is planned. Believe it. Everything they do is planned. They think 4, 5, 6 steps ahead. They make themselves look like idiots. But trust me, it is planned what they do. But does it really matter to you? That's my question. Get prepared. Because you're going to need your preps, ladies and gentlemen. You will need your preps. I hope that you have a great day. Continue to prepare, because all of these external things that are happening around the world, they will affect us in one way or another. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. We'll talk to you later on today. God bless you all.